Okay, so we're back again, back in our favorite place in front of the camera, and at least one of my favorite places.
Yeah, not mine, but that's okay.
I like being in front of the camera. I like being in front of the microphone, and hopefully some people are liking it too. We'll see. So on this one, I know last time we talked, we went into kind of our origin story, if you will, about Fusion 3. But what we didn't get into was what we went into, right? And so, yes, we went out and we formed Fusion3 Consulting. Nice generic consulting of what? That's why we kept it generic. But we knew we wanted to go and work with ServiceNow. We had implemented ServiceNow at the business we were at. We had grown that implementation successfully, I would say. I'm going to pat ourselves on the back for that one.
That's fair.
I remember the launch day. I remember seeing it up on the big screen in the operations center. And then we stepped out and we said, okay, yeah, let's go be a ServiceNow consulting firm. At the time, though, I was actually working with another ServiceNow consulting firm because I was the product owner. So I had to, I only had limited resources. So I would bring in a partner to help me with those projects. So just being another ServiceNow partner wasn't necessarily going to do us any service. So we decided to specialize in something. Good or bad at the time, who knew? But what we did was we looked at, okay, of the ServiceNow platform, what could we start small with? Because we didn't have a lot of people, for one, and what potentially is being underserved. So at the time, we were working with our CISO and rolling out GRC at that point. So in 2019, the GRC product, which is now the IRM product in ServiceNow, or underneath the IRM moniker in ServiceNow, was just really getting rolling. But there was a need for it. And talking to our CISO, he said, all the CISOs are every time I show them what we're doing, they're like, yeah, I need that. So we decided to step into that. It was also a nice, easy entry point because we didn't have to have a lot of certified consultants. We only had to have 3. There were 3 of us. We could do this. And we stepped into that. But also, we didn't want to just be one of 1,000 in the ocean.
Yeah, I think if you recall, when we first started, we went to, as we mentioned in the last episode, to Knowledge in 2019. So as we're sitting there in awe about the ecosystem, how many partners, all the customers, just how many people actually worked at ServiceNow.
The sea of partner booths that were just...
The DJs in the hallway, let's just be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
it was an experience,
yes,
right?
It was definitely an experience.
But if you remember, we ended up, we were the newbies, the new kids on the block, so to speak. So we started talking to folks at ServiceNow. And when we're asking them, how do we become successful in this ecosystem? It's already mature. The product's been around for a while already. There's established partners. There's all the big name partners that we all know.
Yes.
The household names.
The big 4, the big 5, however many you want to count it.
How do we even think about competing? So one of the things we started talking about was the whole idea of specialization. And at the time, every single partner, that was in existence was an ITSM partner. So sorry, this episode is going to be filled with acronyms. I roll. Get your dictionary or your crosswalk out here.
We'll put all the translation in the comments.
So everybody, went to market with IT service management, your ticketing system, tickets, requests, things for IT. So I think for us, it was, how are we going to be able to compete? We don't want to be 901 ITSM partner. How do you stand out? How do you tell a story that's a little bit different? And I think for us, the specialization that you mentioned, some of it is sheer math, let's be honest. There was minimum requirements to earn that recognition in the partner program for being specialized. But coupled with that is there was only a handful of partners back in 2019 that focused on what was, sorry, acronym again, GRC, Governance, Risk, and Compliance. There was only a few. And that was part of the reason, right? As a customer, the partner we had wasn't really fulfilling the need. We were fortunate that our CISO was very technically inclined. So I think he had a very clear mindset, a very clear direction. We haven't really talked much about our third partner, Ian.
Right. Let's give Ian a call out here. Ian Brown.
Ian. But Ian is a brilliant developer, all really self-taught. We're going to age him a little bit and say, oh, he started as a Flash developer. If anybody knows what that is. So him
Google it. Put it in the chat GPT. You'll get it.
Him working with Jason, I think was, some of that was timing, and it was just a good circumstance where, hey, the partner we had didn't really have the expertise, but in-house we happened to have the business process expertise with the CISO and then Ian's development expertise, I think, to really, bridge that gap.
Yeah. A little side story about Ian.
There's lots of side stories about Ian.
that I'm proud of. Is that this almost didn't happen because Ian almost took another job.
Yeah, that's fair.
So he had been interviewing with another company who we ended up partnering with and implementing their software on ServiceNow. But I actually met with Ian, and he was at the time in the SharePoint group, kind of SharePoint was SharePoint at that time. And I said, hey, why don't you come over to the ServiceNow team? And he came over to ServiceNow team and he's never looked back. But by doing that, by switching that, we kept him at the company. And then because he was still at the company, he came out and started Fusion3 with us. So there's a whole myriad of kind of cosmic alignment that happened to actually do this, as well as setting ourselves up for that first knowledge, scrapping together our money to get out to that conference and pay for that conference. But then also getting into the partnership program, and getting the requirements down and figuring out the requirements. I mean, again, I'm not going to say we figured it out because Ian and I had nothing to do with it. Melissa figured out how to get us to those and to meet those requirements. She just said, hey, go take this exam, do this, do that. And then we can meet those requirements. But I think that in having that niche and having that direction from ServiceNow, even a lot of ServiceNow people were saying, hey, yeah, focus in this area. It really paid off.
I think that served us well for how niche or how small, how boutique, whatever word you want to use to describe us. I think we have, given the ecosystem and the size, there's a few thousand consulting and implementation partners, which are those of us that actually implement and configure and train customers on how to use the various pieces of ServiceNow. I think we have a really strong reputation given our size. So that's something I would say that I personally, and I'm sure you and Ian are as well, like we're super proud of.
Absolutely.
There's, again, if there's over 2,000 partners and they know your name because of your specialization in this governance, risk, compliance, IRM, IRO, another acronym, whatever we're calling it these days, I think that's really a testament, going back to what we talked about in our first episode here, is that authenticity and that expertise and that extra diligence, to pay attention about, let's not lose sight that this is about a customer and the outcomes that they're trying to achieve. It's not hurrying up to just close the project. So I really think it's people over resumes. Yes, metrics are important, but there's also, a quality and a personability side of things when you're working with these large clients that are going through this massive transformation, because that's ultimately what we're doing. Our services are transformative projects. They're not just implementing software. These are major transitions from folks that likely haven't even been using software. We're working with business stakeholders. And I think that's a big difference for our focus area, is you're working much more with folks that are in the business, not the technical folks. And I think that requires a bit more thought in how you approach an implementation. It speaks to the ability of the consultants to be able to translate technical concepts to non-technical folks. And that's not an easy thing. And I think it's also not something that scales super easily. And that's where you see, even in Forrester reports, this is not coming from me because we're a small partner. Go ahead, start Googling Forrester and ServiceNow IRM implementations. That the constant feedback is the larger partners don't have that subject matter expertise. And I think a lot of the reason is what we were just talking about. It doesn't scale easily. It's not easy to ramp up to have folks that can really do that type of translation and that hands-on support.
Yeah, I would agree. And there's pluses to the large organizations, right? I think they do They do also do a great job of, end user support after the fact, right? And kind of enhancements. But I do believe that specialization, and I think we're a testament to it, is that the specialization, you can build a company around a specialization like that. Yes, we've branched out into other areas just because our clients have asked us, quite frankly. They want us to figure it out, right? They don't want to go anywhere else. They want us to do it. And even if we've never done it before, they'll give us the leash and go, hey, go ahead. Let's see what we can do here. But I think that speaks volumes to what we've been able to build, I think. And to your point, it is very much a people thing. It's not a developer to an IT tech person speaking. We're coming into people who are doing their job, who are probably most of us are overstressed, overworked, right? They have things going on, and we're coming in, and it's disruptive, right? What we are doing, and to be able to stop, recognize that, let them know that we recognize that, right? We know that we're not just going to come in and slam this in front of you and say, here, use this tool. We're gonna help you through it, right? Don't worry about it. Yes, you're going to get a new software package. You're not going to be using Excel anymore. You're going to be using ServiceNow, but we're going to get you to the point where you're just as comfortable in ServiceNow as you were in Excel, And I think from a partnership standpoint, even inside the ecosystem, we do have that reputation. I mean, we had people walking up to us, and telling us that, and just seeking us out rather than seeking them out. Yeah. So I think that's huge. And to see what we've been able to do with that. Now, the partner program itself, we're going to parking lot that for a minute. But that really did kind of, accelerate us when we got into that program. We got the recognition it just took a little bit of reputation building. And then now we have that reputation and it's solid. We don't have escalations to our names or anything, projects going sideways. At least we don't know of. If they are, please reach out. But I think that, I that's pretty cool. Like to be able to have that kind of solid reputation, and people wanting to do business with you. Like you said, our retention rate is 90% or better. And that's, some of these clients have been with us since day one. We've been working together for 6 years. No wonder they're texting you, telling you about their kids' graduation and things like that. We've seen their kids grow up, So that's pretty awesome. When we first got into that partner program, we were at Knowledge 19.
Yes.
We just got back from Knowledge 25. So, there's been a lot of, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, you've probably seen a whole bunch of Knowledge 25 wrap-ups and the selfies and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot. You can go out and you can see all this kind of stuff. But what I want to focus on is the difference between Knowledge 19, which was our first one, when we walked in like we were, the country mouse went to city mouse, to Knowledge 25, and how different the experience is. I know my experience was very different, in a positive way. But I wanted to just kind of jump into that. And then also we can talk a little bit about what Knowledge 25 is. And also I want to talk about the focus of Knowledge 25 and how, it can work for everybody.
Yeah, I think from a personal perspective, night and day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of that is the nature.
Yeah.
Yourself and Ian had been on the ServiceNow team in a previous company. So I think you've attended a knowledge conference before. Yeah. I really think it's a conspiracy that I'm normally not allowed to go to these conferences. I've only been to 2 for some reason. So we'll talk about that later. But the difference between 19 and this year was just night and day. I think the first one, certainly just excitement, overwhelmed, to your point. In our last episode, the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Like, is everybody going to know we started a business yesterday? Right. Like, we're all going to know.
We're finishing our website in the hotel room in Vegas the day before the conference, so that when people looked at it on our business cards and they actually clicked on it, it actually worked.
It is funny you say that. And now all those memories, I think I was blocking them out, honestly. So now,
I brought them back.
Now I remember this, sitting in the hotel room, literally, hours before.
The 3 of us just huddled around this thing. Ian, it's not working. Why is the website
and he's like,
crashing?
I'm not a WordPress developer. Why are you doing this to me? We're like, you're a developer. Figure it out. So that's actually really funny now that I think about it. We were like testing all the links on our phones.
We were looking at how they look on the phone. Did it look okay on the phone? Because everyone's going to look at it on the phone.
Maybe we don't hand out business cards because our website's not working.
Right.
Yeah, that's valid. That's really, so there was that stress that
Yes.
I obviously blocked out.
Yes.
And then, I think at that point it was a little bit more about all of the tech sessions.
Yes.
We were going into
Yeah.
labs.
Agreed.
So for folks not familiar with the Knowledge Conference, there's a mix between keynotes to attend that at a high level talk about the company and the platform. There's breakout sessions that are customer success stories. There's also technical hands-on labs where you're getting kind of your hands-on developer instance, and you're following along in class. So I think all three of us were much more focused on on the tactical side.
It felt like I went back to college. Like I was going like from class to class, lab to lab.
Let's not forget we had backpacks back then. Sore subject for anybody in the community, but yes, we had backpacks.
Yes, nice knowledge nice ServiceNow backpacks. But just you were from 9 to 6. It was just we were in class basically because we were trying to soak up as much as we possibly could. Not that we don't do that anymore, but when it was all so new, we were trying to get, okay, where are we in this ecosystem? What's next? What's happening, right? And we didn't even know how to learn about stuff yet.
And I think some of it's too just natural. You're trying to build confidence.
Yes.
You have this major imposter syndrome.
Right.
Our website barely worked apparently. Now that all that's coming out and back to light. We had started a business such a short time ago.
Yeah.
I think that was just the focus. How do we almost prove ourselves to ourselves?
To ourselves.
Exactly.
Like we belong here, right? Like
exactly.
Not even to anyone else. I mean, no one else even remembers us from college, Knowledge 19. But
no, we were in the sea of people.
Right. But it was to us. So I think, to your point, night and day to 25.
With now 25, it's, we had the best of intentions with these full agendas to go to these keynotes and these breakout sessions.
But it was Vegas.
But it was Vegas.
Kidding.
Yeah. There's always that. It's always in Vegas. So just know that if you decide to attend, be ready, drink a lot of coffee, hydrate,
yes.
All that good stuff.
Hydrate.
But I think we ended up having so many people proactively reach out that they're like, are you going to Knowledge? We want to meet with you. And that's ranging from ServiceNow expert services, folks within the product teams.
Right.
Fast forward to the last 2 years, we're an authorized training partner. We have an academic training partnership. So there's all these different folks, plus we had customers attending. So great opportunity to mingle with some of our customers in a much more casual setting, take them out to dinner, talk about all the things, the good, the bad, and the ugly, about, being in IT, being in Vegas, whatever it is. So it's just, to me, that's night and day, where now instead of, this imposter syndrome, it's more of how do I share all the experience and the knowledge that I have, and how do we continue to build, these great authentic relationships, and how do we continue to build these strategic partnerships that we have and continue to just do good work and I think have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
I think we had a little bit more fun in 2025 because we just weren't as nervous. Like, let's just
right. We weren't as nervous. We weren't like, hey, did we do the wrong thing? We just left steady jobs and now we're doing this. Did we do the right thing?
Yeah.
I agree. I think we had more fun from that standpoint. And from my view, going, I don't even know if it was not Knowledge 14. The numbers just are the year. And so 2014 would be Knowledge 14. I don't know if it was Knowledge 14 or 15 that I first went to, but to then be at Knowledge 25 and to have people seeking us out, people within the ServiceNow ecosystem, which is a huge organization, right? With a huge ecosystem of partners wanting to talk to us. Like, we didn't even have to go find them. They were texting us, like, we need to meet, we need to talk about this, we need to talk about that. That was a cool aspect. And to have that many meetings and also that many prospects coming out versus 2019 was just a whole different experience. And I just think it's really cool. There were some really cool things that have come out of that. I think from our experience, it was great. I think the conference itself was a bit overwhelming from a standpoint of, one, it's gotten even bigger.
I think the sheer size, like logistics, right? If you're in Vegas, anybody who's been to Vegas, they're now spanning 2 different hotels to be able to accommodate all the people, all of the breakout sessions. And I think that just pure logistically is becoming a challenge.
Yeah. It's just, you're going to have to start like renting e-bikes or something. I don't know. Because it's still overwhelming from that standpoint. And I think the speed at the industry that we're in, and especially ServiceNow's speed in that world of changing technology, right? It's so much to try and take in and so much to try and keep up with. Never mind as a partner. But I think also as a customer of ServiceNow, where I just got this licensing for this package, I'm trying to implement it, right? And now it's all of a sudden it was like, hey, I'm going good. I'm starting to implement this. I haven't gotten it live yet, but all of a sudden, hey, here's all this AI stuff, right? And everything in the world now is AI, right? There's AI conversations going on all over the place. You know, my mom even asked me about AI the other day.
We could have probably used AI to do this.
We could have done this by AI. You might have been more comfortable with AI. I don't know. But I mean, we could have done this whole thing with AI. It might be, we don't know. But I think that the big thing there was, there is such a focus on AI right now, because I think it is something that's going to change and evolutionize. I'm going to make up a word. Evolutionize the industry. I don't necessarily know that AI is going to revolutionize an industry the way that the internet did. Right. The internet was kind of like, I equate that to like the Industrial Revolution. Like it completely changed how we do work. Yes, AI is going to change how we do work. There's still going to be human intervention. There's still going to be humans teaching it. Your job and your thing, the technology is going to be more about training AI than implementing something or doing different things and coding different things. But my challenge is that it was such a focus that if you weren't implementing AI yet with your ServiceNow platform, at Knowledge, you almost got lost in the shuffle because everything was AI focused. Everywhere you looked were the three little stars. And if anyone knows anything about AI, there's one of the symbols that they represent it with is these three little stars. I think there's some really cool aspects that ServiceNow does with AI. I think that some of the things that they revealed at Knowledge 25 with their agentic AI fabric and their workflow data fabric and zero copy and all this stuff is going to change how people interact with ServiceNow. And I think it's a way to get into AI without having your processes perfect and your data perfect and everything. But I also felt like if you weren't there trying to understand how to bring AI into your organization, there wasn't really anything for you. Like I felt like it was over focused almost on AI. I don't know. I'm probably going to get blasted with that, but I feel like that was the case. I think there's definitely, I mean, there's a lot of power. It is the buzz. It is the next wave that's coming. So I understand the focus, but I think that ServiceNow recognizes it too, because they're looking at this core business, kind of stratosphere and trying to keep everyone who's using ServiceNow coming along and getting them to that AI world. But I don't know, what was your feeling on that?
I would agree that I think AI was front and center. I also think when you go to any big conference like that, there's always a theme. There's a theme of the year.
Right.
So whether it's workflow,
it's a good point. It's a good point.
We make the world of work better. And, this year happens to be AI. The thing that I would like to see a bit more of, and this will likely happen coming from the partner community, the awesome MVPs that are in the community. So if anybody doesn't know what an MVP is, these are just individuals that love the ServiceNow technology. They put out a ton of content officially on the ServiceNow community, on LinkedIn, on various, they present at Snugs, and they basically just share their passion for the platform and the best practices.
Is a user group, by the way. Yeah.
Good acronyms. Again,
right, yeah.
I roll.
ServiceNow user group. We're not just all getting around hugging each other.
And I think one of the big things is helping clients understand the path to AI.
Yes.
Because one of the things that gets overlooked is maybe your processes aren't perfect, but you do have to have a solid foundational set of data. And I think that's not a sexy thing to talk about. Who wants to talk about data quality?
Right.
And, maybe
there's some data scientists out there that just said, yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. But the
understood.
masses,
Understood.
No. Yeah,
right.
masses, not so much. So I think that there's probably some great use cases of leveraging AI to normalize data to then enable you to use and get to some of the agentic AI use cases and things like that. But I think a little bit more about foundational requirements before you can use AI effectively, or giving specific use cases where the data is less, required or less reliant. I think a little bit more about enablement would be helpful. And I think not getting lost so much in just AI and all it can do, and bringing it down a bit more to the baby steps that it's going to take to implement it. And I think that's going to ring true to more customers. Like, yes, we definitely saw on the screen some demos and use cases and things like that. But I think some of those use cases are too mature for a majority of the client base, because we still have a good segment of the customers that are primarily still using acronym ITSM, your ticketing, maybe some human resource management, and they haven't really explored the full platform yet. So I think that a little bit more focus about, enablement and that roadmap would go a long way.
Yeah. I think, and I feel like that is right around the corner. I think that ServiceNow themselves, especially being a public company, they have to keep up with the trends, right? And what's really going to
can't get left behind,
right? And also what's going to garner attention, right? Because they have responsibility to their shareholders, right? So I think that's where there's a lot of focus there. But I think they're also positioned to be a good AI company. They have data, they have huge data models, they have all this stuff, they have things and they're a workflow company. AI is all about making workflows easier, right? Or your life easier. Let's just put it even that way. You could have an assistant, an AI personal assistant helping you keep track of, when you have to go pick up your kids, your dry cleaning, all that kind of stuff. So I think but to your point about the enablement, right? We run across a lot of clients who are still just trying to consume the licenses they've bought for their regular ServiceNow applications. Focusing on that, getting them to say, okay, or say, hey, look, you haven't consumed these, let's reallocate, right? And say, let's reallocate that over to some AI work. And here's some AI basics that we can get you started with. I think some of the summarization things on records and whatnot is a good step into it. I do think with some of the agents, they're less reliant on good data. So you could get some traction there. But I think there's also that cost structure, right, that we all have to be aware of, is that, hey, they paid money for this application they're not using yet, or maybe they're not going to use it anymore because they've made another decision. Right. And can we reallocate that and move that over? But that was definitely, there was some great stuff around that at Knowledge 25. And you're right, everything has to have a theme, right? That was definitely the theme. And even more so this year than last year, it's definitely a bigger push for the whole agentic AI piece. And what agentic AI is in a nutshell is basically you have agents doing your work, virtual people, if you will, that you can program to do all these different tasks. That when people hear that, they're like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. No, not necessarily. There's still some human input and some human correction that has to happen, and also human approval that has to happen. We're not quite to the point yet where we're fully automatic.
Well, I think the other piece that maybe didn't seemingly, at least from our vantage point, right? Everybody's experiencing the conference in different ways. So that remains to be seen. But I think one of the areas that I didn't see as much about that I thought I would have was ServiceNow stepping into CRM. Yeah. So I think that's a huge move to now go really directly toe-to-toe with Salesforce. I know it's always been there a little bit. When we were at our former organization, they were implementing Salesforce CRM. There was a big push to compare Service Cloud versus ServiceNow's ITSM, acronym, comparing those software packages. So I think now with this solid base of workflow, digitizing workflow, all the agentic AI capabilities, the data fabric you were talking about, which now you don't have to copy over data for some of these more robust integrations, starting to step into the financial service side of things with sales orders, purchase orders, and now on top of all that, having a true customer relationship management suite of software. I really, kudos to the ServiceNow team, bigger brains than mine for sure, but makes a ton of strategic sense now. You already have a solid base with all of the service delivery side of things, natural progression to kind of go after that front office side of things. So I'm really excited to see that the traction that is going to start. And I'm sure has already started, just I may not be privy to it. But I do feel like that was a little bit understated. I was surprised to not see, again, at least from my own personal vantage point, more about that.
Oh, right, exactly. I mean, it definitely was one of it was probably, if it was on the marquee, it would probably have been the next one down from the AI, kind of agentic AI marquee. It's probably the next one down. I agree. It wasn't as prominent, but I think it is definitely one of their big announcements was into the CRM space. And really, when you look at the platform now, you can see that they're truly trying to get to that, I say almost that ERP level platform, right? Will you ever run financials off of it? I don't know. But everything else that's workflow based will be on there. I see it going that way, and I see that yes, they will compete with someone like a Salesforce, right? Who yes, they have bolt-ons for IT tickets, and they have bolt-ons for HR tickets and all this kind of stuff. ServiceNow is just all
it's all native. Exactly, and I think that streamlines things quite a bit from just a tech stack standpoint, from a knowledge share standpoint. Yeah. All the architecture is the same or similar.
Right.
You get kind of scale there when you're trying to implement and manage all those different pieces. The other exciting thing, it seems like ServiceNow has kind of repositioned a little bit about how do they go down market and really start to appeal more to small and medium-sized businesses. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because we're a small business. I don't know. But that was really exciting to me. There's a lot.
Maybe we'll get used to ServiceNow.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of contacts that we have just in our network, people we've worked with over the years, we really haven't broached ServiceNow with a lot of them because the platform was a bit too big. It was a little bit out of their price point. So I'm really excited to see kind of this reemergence of a focus on that SMB space, if you will. So I'm definitely pumped about that. I don't think that was, again, a big highlight, but through talking to all the folks that we had the opportunity, to network with while we were out at Knowledge, that was a really kind of exciting announcement that's a new area of, I would say, refocus for them about how do we really go down market more effectively. Right. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I am too. And I mean, obviously there's only so far down market they can go, right? Yes. Because it is what it is. But I think that to see that they're saying, okay, there is this aspect, even of their customer base, right? That is big enough, but they need to figure out a way to better service it, right? And to see that kind of focus on it gives us, the hope as well. It's not, we're not all just fighting for the Fortune 500, I think that that piece, and especially if you can bring along any kind of AI and bring AI down market, I think you'll have a winner, I think that'll be a big
I think so too. Just the fact that it's, again, I think native makes a big difference. Yes. Just not having to, continuously shop around. How do we integrate all of these different pieces? I think that makes a big difference, especially as you get a little bit smaller and smaller. You're just not going to have as much expertise or staff typically in that, IT space. So
some of the other stuff at Knowledge 25 and at Knowledge they talk about is the partner program.
Yes.
So I parking lot that a little while ago. We're going to get that up off the rug.
Do we really want to?
We won't go too far. We won't go too far. We won't, air, all of the. But one, to start out with, it is a very robust partner program. I will say that. And it's the access that you have to different resources, to training, to you mentioned we're also not only just an implementation partner for ServiceNow, we're also an authorized training partner. That was difficult to say. And I'm one of the trainers. And so I love that aspect, being able to actually conduct trainings and have those aha moments with students and things like that. But the partner program itself is constantly changing.
Dynamic.
We'll call it dynamic.
Yes.
We'll call it dynamic. And you single-handedly really have kind of managed that for us at Fusion3, right? Again, going back to the point, you just kind of tell Ian and I what we have to do to comply. We do it. But so, and again, without going too far, just share, some of the challenges. Because I know, we talk to people too, and they're like, hey, I'm thinking about, going out, being a consultant for ServiceNow, starting my own LLC. I'm thinking about trying to get into the partner program, or, we're about to get into the partner program. What kind of advice can you share? We've tried to build strategy around being a ServiceNow partner, and then the partnership program changes. So
yes. So I think it's just, agility.
right.
Agility is the name of the game. How can we pivot and align? And again, I don't think that this is something that every partner really focuses on so much. And I say that because once you get to a certain size, to a degree, there are things that start to become less important.
Yeah.
When you're looking at number of certified resources and things like that.
Yeah, they're just kind of automatic because you have enough people that you're going to meet the requirement no matter what.
Exactly.
Right.
So, I think what's great that I like to see is despite our size, we are always kind of topping out at the top. Yeah. We really are. So if you look at, the fact that there's registered, there's specialist, premier, and elite. There's also a global elite, which you can imagine that's just for top international consulting firms.
Who knows? Maybe next time we'll talk
maybe about next time around, right? I love to see that our quality, our capability, and our focus on having skilled, certified resources with high customer satisfaction. We're always in elite and premier, always.
Yeah.
And I love to see that for us because it's really, those are the metrics and the things that we care about is that we want to make sure that that's how we stand out is consistent quality delivery and that we are, skilled and knowledgeable in the areas that we're trying to provide support for our customers. In terms of other pieces, it's a dynamic moving target. Every time you think that you have it, it changes. But I do think that we've had some great things also come out of, the partner program and some of the strategies. So one of the things about 3 years ago, if you recall, that ServiceNow started really talking about is, their total addressable market and the growth that they're projecting. And one of the things that became apparent pretty quickly was, hey, we're going to have a talent shortage. And we're not going to have enough qualified resources to be able to implement either from a customer standpoint themselves or from the partner ecosystem standpoint. So how do we address this? And ServiceNow came up with their own programs, like Rise Up and things like that. But one of the things that we did, even though we're a small partner, strategy is always key.
Right.
So one of the things that we decided to do was become an authorized training partner, which allows us to be certified and to deliver technical training to our customer base. And that allows the customers to then go ahead and take their certification. So as Kevin mentioned, he's one of our instructors.
Professor for us, by the way.
We have Lonray, who's also on our team. That's focused on another acronym, IRM, your governance, risk, and compliance. And she's a certified trainer in that area. And the exciting thing is this is just, again, timing. Some things are timing and opportunity. Lonray and myself attended a Women in Technology conference in Texas. We had the opportunity to meet with a fellow CEO. Her name was Christine Aboud. She manages and is the CEO of St. Michael's Learning Academy based out of Texas. Her and I commiserated quite a bit. So did Lonray. We were chatting about what her and her team was doing with SAP, another software, more on the ERP side of things. And we instantly just had a bit of chemistry. We started ideating, and we basically came up with an idea of taking our authorized training partner kind of status and applying it, but more in an academic setting.
Right.
And I think some of that, again, was just ironic timing that we positioned ourselves in that way to be subject matter experts, structure a curriculum in such a way that hey, we have knowledge in this risk and compliance area that every year is getting more and more emphasis across more and more industries. And we're aligned with this academic side of things where ServiceNow is expanding their academic partnerships with local colleges across the US. And we already kind of have our foot in the door with that. Yeah. So really exciting that, the timing of all of that worked out and that strategy, was a couple years in the making, but you can really start to see all of that coming to fruition with all of the changes in the investment that ServiceNow has been making and all the emphasis that they're putting on, hey, we really need to make sure to be successful as an ecosystem as a whole. We need folks that are knowledgeable and skilled and not just good at taking exams, but actually know how to implement the product. And that goes back to all the way back to the people aspect and being authentic, and that it's not just about the tech side of things. It's talking to folks about how do we translate those technical concepts to some non-technical folks so they understand how to add value to the business. Right.
I think that it's how long, well, we won't necessarily have to
do ourselves.
The math. No, but I think one of the cool things is that meeting that happened at Women in Tech. One, very cool whole organization, Women in Tech. Again, going back to my support for the women in technology, women leading businesses, I think it's fantastic. But having that connection, and it took a while.
It did. It took almost 2 years.
But for you came up with a strategy at that moment in time, leveraging, hey, we're a ServiceNow partner. There's something we can probably do here. And seeing it through, and then finally having it come to fruition to the point where we just did our first cohort and we trained. I love it because a lot of it is around reskilling and upskilling service members, whether they're active duty or they're coming out of active service, going into civilian life. I love to be able to give back to that, right? I mean, they sacrifice themselves for us, and to be able to give back to that is just huge. But to see that come finally, one of your strategies, a few of them have worked out, some of them haven't. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest. Some don't. Some we can put back in that parking lot.
Right? Yeah. Well, we won't try that one again. But to see that come to fruition, I think is very cool, and to see also how ServiceNow has really picked up on that. And expanded their own program, but also we're coming along with it because we're already in it and doing it. But you were doing it ahead of them, so they're kind of in lockstep with them. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. And kudos to you and Lonray, and I'm sure whoever our future instructors are going to be want to be selective, to make sure that the quality is there and that authenticity is there. But I think it's great, and there's a huge need as the ecosystem keeps expanding. So it's, you're getting the opportunity to give back.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
I love that aspect, and I think now that I get more and more into teaching with the ATP program and with the SMLA cohorts, I definitely think I missed my calling, being a professor.
The next career,
next career.
It's the tee up for the transition,
But yeah, so that anything else about the partner program that you want to say that you're allowed to say on camera?
Yeah, I don't think so. Okay. I think it's just, we'll leave it at its dynamic and keeps us on our toes of how to be creative with our strategy.
Right.
Yeah.
And the one thing I will also say though, is it's pretty cool to be part of a partner program that is so, there are partners like us, our size, that are very collaborative. We work very closely. We partner with them. We work on their projects. They work on our projects. Yes. So a lot of the mid to smaller partners, we're very, there's a lot of camaraderie there, right? And I like that aspect of it. I do also like the aspect of, hey, there is a program. There is a program for us to participate in. Yes, we have to keep up with it and stay on our toes, and that's where you come in. But yeah, there's a lot of good pluses to being a ServiceNow partner. And especially just seeing how the uptake of ServiceNow is out there. It's just going to keep going. So, and who knows what Knowledge 26 is going to bring. We'll see what the theme is next year.
Maybe it'll be AI again?
Maybe the whole thing will just be, I don't know, avatars. But, we'll all be wearing lenses and just doing it from home. But yeah, so we'll wrap that topic up. We might come back and visit some of the talent shortages and speak more to that, just because that's near and dear to my heart because of all my training and trainings I give. But we'll talk about that. But yeah, we'll wrap up that topic. We'll leave the partnership program where it is.
Yeah, we danced with it just a little bit. And now
we touched on it. Yeah. You want to hear more about it? You can come in for coffee and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So again, great talking. Stay caffeinated, everybody.